Hi everyone, I'm Lance. Today I'm here to do a presentation regarding Milton Spenser Terry. Mr. Milton Spenser Terry. Now my reason for doing this is that Mr. Milton Spenser Terry, he said some things. Most of what he said is really good and hard work. And I would give him, well, I don't know if I can really give him any credit, because the Apostle Paul spoke of, in Romans, of people who turn the truth into a lie. You see, if you got 50% truth and the other 50% is false, it's no good. It's so bad that your 50% that is false turn the 50% of the truth into a lie. Turn it into a lie because people are looking at, when you're dealing with the scripture, people are looking at from source to sink, or from the beginning to the end. And if you are in errors in the beginning, it makes one wonder, how do you arrive at an end? If you're on a straight road to a destination and you turn off on a slip road, and somewhere up the road you find another road back to the end, how you missed out. You missed out a lot. So how did you get it? You copied it, or you plagiarized it, or how did you get it? So Mr. Milton Terry, firstly, before I say where he went wrong, let me first explain clearly who he was. And I've got it here. Mr. Milton Spenser Terry served as a minister in the Methodist Episcopal Church from 1863 to 1884 before he became professor of Old Testament language and literature at Garrett Biblical Institute. He became professor of Christian doctrine in 1897 and stayed in that position until his death in 1914. So he was a well-learned man in theology. And he's got a whole lot of, he's done a whole lot on, the Olivet Discourse. And he sounds very correct. It sounds correct. But let me say, if you are a partial preacheress, if you're a partial preacheress, and you're a full preacheress, and you start in Genesis, and you see Genesis other than a literal physical, material creation, then you know what eyes are you looking through? What eyes are you looking through? Now, let me just say something here about what Milton Spenser Terry said. He said the first and second chapters of Genesis are thought not to describe a universal cosmogony. Hear what he used the word? Cosmogony. Now, what is cosmogony? Cosmogony encompasses creation stories, cultures, myths, divine structures, principles found throughout history, and mainly the creation narratives in Genesis. That's what he's talking about. He's talking about religious cosmology, cosmogony. So it's not like cosmology. Cosmology is a study of the universe that's slightly different, but he used the word here, cosmogony. Yeah? Cosmogony. Cosmogony. And he's talking about, creation stories, cultures, myth, divine structures, principles found throughout history. And he's mainly talking about Genesis, the narratives in Genesis. So he said, the first and second chapters of Genesis are thought not to describe a universal cosmogony, but only the sky, climate, and soil where the first human pair were created. You hear that? The biblical creation is only that which attended the introduction of man upon the earth, and is therefore essentially of limited extent. Hear what he said? Now, he steered clear of all rationalizing theories, maintaining theorists, and he maintained that theorists who find discrepancies and errors in Genesis have their eyes too full of stardust to see clearly the facts. Now, that is too dogmatic and rigid. That is, what do I mean? That is trying to put across a story as facts. That is not true. And it makes you, I believe he makes a big mistake. I can't believe that a man who wants to practice Christianity and was a pastor, and his career was in theology, the God business. I don't believe he would deliberately come to such conclusions unless he made a big, big, big mistake. Now, I wish he was alive, because I'd love to give him a briefing. He needs a briefing. I don't know if anyone didn't challenge what he said and give him a briefing. Although he may not, accept, or he probably would not accept. But he needs a briefing. Now it's clear as crystal. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 tells of the whole entire worldwide creation from day one in sequence, that you cannot detach any. He goes here and he detaches Yes, the man and his wife, who, let me say, was created on the sixth day of the sequence of the creation, which you cannot take out from it, because the scriptures show it from day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, and on day 6, God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the work of his hand. Can you imagine? How could he make such a mistake? You can't take out the man and his wife and said and said it was that was the whole story of the creation. How could you? How could you? How could you? How could you? Now, it makes me wonder, if some of these preachers were drinking hot gut whiskey or whatever, or they were smoking the Waco tobacco. How could he? How could he? How could he? How could Milton Spenser Terry make such gross mistake? Yeah, it's a grave mistake. It's terrible, terrible mistake. How could you pick out one day, the sixth day, you pick out the sixth day out of the whole sequence of the creation and say that the whole sequence of the creation, yeah, was the man and his wife? How could you say that? How could you? It wasn't done the first day. So you're actually saying that God create that creation just separately, yeah? And it's not material, it's not physical and literal. Yeah, the only physical and literality about it is the man and his wife, the first human pair, he called them. And he said, it's about the sky, climate, and soil where the first human were created. How could you say that all of that land and sea, yes, or let me say seas and heavens, you call all the heavens sky? The word Hamashaim, yeah, the word, the Hebrew word for heavens, yes. How could you make it sky? How could you make it sky? Because it's a plural word, and you say here sky and climate. Yeah, Milton Terry, how could he make such terrible mistake? And I'm saying it again, I'm wondering, yeah, what was he drinking? What was he drinking? What did he smoke? How could he? How could he? How could he take one day out of the 6? We heard nothing. If we were around at the time and following God's creation, yeah, we would hear nothing about man and his wife until the 6th day. Yes, God had hit the man and his wife, yeah, were not mentioned until the 6th day. And I'm saying it and I'm repeating it over and over, and I'm saying it because there's a whole lot of people around right now following Milton Terry. Yes, and making a covenant creation and a covenant eschatology doctrine out of what he said, which is clearly a grave error and mistake. Yeah, a blind, dumb, and deaf, error and mistake. How could he? How could he? What could he have been on? What was he on? What was he on? You know, I remember once, you know, I saw a priest came out of a church dressed in a Cossack, black, and have on a black hat, standing at the bus stop waiting for a bus, and he went to his pocket and pulled out a cigarette and light it up. And I thought to myself, I never learned that. I never thought that, you know, priests should smoke. So, you know, what was Milton Spenser Terry on when he said, and let me go over it again. Milton Spenser Terry stated that the first and second chapters of Genesis are thought not to describe a universal cosmogony, but only the sky, climate, and soil where the first human pair were created. Really? Are you serious? Is he serious? Then he goes on to say, the biblical creation is only that which attended the introduction of man upon the earth, and is therefore essentially of limited extent. He's saying the same thing he said before. The limited extent is the man, the location of the man and his wife. Yes, but we see that where the man and his wife were created, they were placed somewhere else. So I guess he also probably include that location as well, the Garden of Eden. Yes, and when it spoke of the four rivers, yes, that went to a faraway location. So he's saying it could have been a large location, but it was only concerned Adam and his wife. So it was only that part that the sun shone and the moon and the stars. It was only that location, nowhere else in the world. But how could that? How could that? So was that a different sun, moon, and star, other than the literal physical sun, moon, and star, which we know is over all the earth? Yes, which is over all the heavens. Yeah, was it? So, you know, these have to be corrected, because he's gone on and he left this, and I see it's a mess. It's a mess. And you see, for those, that's why one has to be careful. Now, I wonder to myself, if Milton Terry was really a true Christian and he died and now he meet his maker, now didn't he get a rebuke for this? Or did he made it? Did he meet his maker? Because, you know, we are warned. I say this over and over because a lot of people are running off in a hurry to make money, making books, to get money from it. And James warned, be not many masters, be not many teachers, for to us remain the greater condemnation. That only applies to the first century. That still don't apply. Paul warned that we should not go beyond what's written. Now, you know, the most strange thing is that all of the apostles mention nothing like this that I'm hearing about, this covenant creation doctrine. They mention nothing of this sort. Seriously. And when you look clear in the prophets as well, the prophets' prophecy was focused mainly on Israel and the Messiah, the Mashiach. So how that Milton Spenser Terry was so bright, so intelligent, and he didn't understand the basic story? Now let me give a brief review. I said it over and over. Let me say it again. What the basic story that I see in Genesis. Yes, without me looking, I know it by heart now. All my life, been around Christianity. My mother, she was so religious. She grew us up in it. We had special Sunday clothes. I remember those days, my sisters, my mother used to make sure the cremolin were sewn and their clothes, the long dress with the cremolin, and the bow tie and the bow and all that, and we look so, very well dressed, going to Sunday school, and I told Milton, and it's the same story we learn from childhood. Yes, Genesis 1 and 2, we see God finish his work. He rested the 7th day. He was pleased. There were no problem whatsoever. God was well pleased with his finished work. He was pleased. The 6th day when he made man, and when the 6th day ended, he said, very good. All the previous days before, he said good. But on the 6th day, he said, very good. There were no chaos. There were no problems. God was well pleased. He ceased from his work. He rested and hallowed that day, showing you that God was well pleased. Because there were no problems. He had created the man for the purpose which he said in the same chapter from Genesis 1, 26, 27 go on. What he said he would make the man for, and the purpose for which, and the role which he would make the man and give the man. He did all that. He did all that, and he was well pleased. He brought the animals to Adam to give them their names. Yes, he gave the man the dominion that he said he would have given the man. And he was well pleased and he rested. No problem. Until Genesis chapter 3, a serpent entered. And that caused a revolution of the whole entire story. That caused a new beginning of a problem that needed correction. It's straightforward. You can't take anything from Genesis 1 and 2 and put it all the way to Revelation. No. If you want to take anything, you have to go from the garden, where the problem occurred, from where the serpent, from Genesis 3, where the problem began, where a problem entered and caused a change now, and caused God to do something to remedy that problem. And we see the story, yes, played out throughout Genesis 3 to Revelation, of one Adam, the first Adam to a last Adam. It's Adam. The problem was Adam. Christ is Adam. Everything else was Adam, the last Adam. Everything all the way was God reconciling man back to his first place with God. That's all it was. From one Adam to the next Adam. All the stories, all the miracles, signs, and wonders was one objective of God, was to bring back dead Adam. Bring back all that God, all humanity that God had created and had inscribed in at the first Adam that died with the first Adam. God resurrected through and by the last Adam and bring it all back. That was what it's all about. What I've seen that I've thrown a lot of people that they never understood, and a lot of them still don't understand, was when Abraham was brought in, it was not that faith had not existed before Abraham. Because the Hebrew writer called Abel as the first in the hall. I call it the hall of faith. Abel, Enoch, Noah, and many other names that were mentioned in the hall of faith. And the question is, well, how did they know faith? God taught them. They knew that that the seed of the woman, the Mashiach, yes, was the one who they died in hope, with faith, would resurrect them out of that dead in the first Adam, the last Adam. That's what the whole story is all about. You can't make it anything else. You can't touch this. You can't make it with anything else. You can huff and puff and hum and and you can make all the stories you want, and you can bring all your science, arts, and technology to it. It is one objective, from one Adam to the last Adam. How couldn't you have seen that? You see, because you know what? When people plagiarize people's work instead of devote themselves to God, to let God teach them and show them, this is what they do. You copy something that you didn't fully understood, and then you put your own stories to it, and then you end up in a whole lot of errors and mistake, and you get blindfolded from seeing what the true objective was. And that's what happened. So Milton Spenser Terry made a big blunder, a big mistake, in saying what he said here. And it's disgraceful. And it's a shame. And I wanted was to put ignorance to it, but when I looked at how well he had presented the Olivet Discourse, and there were quite a bit of truth there, I have to conclude, how could he stray? How come he didn't get there? Because I suspect, and I mean suspect, I don't have all the evidence, but I suspect plagiarism, copying other people's work, and then run off with it to make a story, and then try to tell the world a lie that it's theirs and they found it all by themselves. See, all of that, when you start doing that, God can't work with you, for you're not honest. So Milton Spenser Terry, may your soul rest in peace. You put forward some truth, just like all the rest that you call futurists. They put forward truth too, but still end up in errors. Yes, because they didn't properly learn the script. How come? How come they couldn't see it? Okay, so much said. Yes, that's my story today. That's my presentation. I hope I've been fair in what I've said, because those statements, yes, when he went on to say that people who are, are seen Otherwise, or he actually said they are seeing, they got stardust in their eyes. Seriously. He said he steered clear of all rationalizing theories, maintaining theorists. Yes, maintaining that theorists who find discrepancies and errors in Genesis have their eyes too full of stardust to see clearly the facts. But that's him. What he said there is actually him. His eyes may have been full of stardust to see the facts. Because when he said that it was based around just the creation story, there was only limited to Adam and Eve, he must have had stardust in his eyes. It's a shame. Okay, I hope I've been useful to someone who didn't understand the full truth of God's one objective and of the Genesis, literal, physical creation. Thanks for listening. I'll catch you again. Bye for now.